Hello everyone, I am Will with another episode of Willpower Radio, this time getting to the May 7th edition of Monday Night Raw. And this is actually a pretty decent show coming off of an abysmal Backlash pay-per-view. And it started off with Braun Strowman coming out to the ring. He had a segment with Kurt Angle, I believe, to announce that Money in the Bank season is starting now and there will be some qualifying matches later on in the night. And Braun Strowman, he wanted a piece of that pie. So he made his intentions really clear really early on that he wanted to be part of the Money in the Bank match. So did I say Royal Rumble qualifier earlier? I'm not sure, but Money in the Bank, you know what month it is. It's Money in the Bank time, damn it. So Braun Strowman, he wants to be part of the Money in the Bank match. He's interrupted by Kevin Owens, who cuts a promo and basically says that he wants to be in the match. So these two have a qualifying match. But before I get into that, Braun Strowman had kind of a weird promo with Kurt Angle where he talked about when he was younger, he had a couple friends and they had a treehouse. And they wouldn't let Braun Strowman play in that treehouse. So what Strowman did was he ripped the tree from the ground basically and killed all of his friends, is what he's saying. So really kind of cheesy stuff, almost like something Roman Reigns would have said back in 2015 during that whole suffering succotash phase of Roman Reigns. So it makes me wonder who Braun Strowman's getting his promos hand-delivered from now. Maybe the crazy Irishman himself, Vince McMahon. So Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens, they have a pretty decent match. Kevin Owens got a lot more offense in this match than we're used to seeing him or many people at all get against Braun Strowman these days. He hit a couple of good super kicks throughout the match. He also hit a beautiful frog splash at one point, and believably at some points looked like he may have even beaten Braun Strowman. He went for the pop-up powerbomb. Strowman was too big, overpowered Kevin Owens, eventually hit his running power slam and beat Kevin Owens to qualify, the first qualifier for the Money in the Bank ladder match. And Kurt Angle did announce this year's Money in the Bank, there's going to be two matches, one for the women and one for the men, and there's going to be a mix of SmackDown and Raw superstars for both matches. So for the men's Money in the Bank, there's going to be 4 men from SmackDown, and you guessed it, 4 men from Raw. And the women's Money in the Bank will follow the same formula. So Strowman lands one of the 4 Raw spots in the men's Money in the Bank. And then we also had a match with Baron Corbin and the Revival. They defeated No Way Jose and Titus Worldwide. This was a pretty standard match. Baron Corbin, he picked up the win for his team after hitting the end of days on No Way Jose. So that was good to see. Baron Corbin, it seems like WWE has this very kind of bipolar booking with him. One week, he's a monster. The next week, he's getting pinned in a couple seconds with a roll-up. But in this match, he came off as serious. He wasn't taking any of the ha-ha stuff that No Way Jose likes to present, and he hit that end of days and he picked up the win for his team. So Baron Corbin's a guy who I think should be in the Money in the Bank match, but considering he won last year's event and it didn't do much for him at all considering he lost his Money in the Bank match when he cashed in against Jinder Mahal. So, I mean, he can be in the match. It's a good spot for him, but by no means is he a believable contender to win that match. But he could be a good placeholder. He's great in multi-man matches, so why not throw him in there, actually. And then also the women's Money in the Bank qualifying match. We had a triple threat match, the first of 2 for this episode of Raw. It was Ember Moon versus Sasha Banks versus Ruby Riott. And going into this match, I was thinking Ruby Riott would be the one to win. She's got a lot of momentum going for her, and she's a heel. The Money in the Bank is really tailor-made for heels to do sneaky cash-ins and take advantage of baby faces that have just had awful, brutal matches. I mean, see the first cash-in with Edge and Cena back at New Year's Revolution in 2006 after that Elimination Chamber match. But it was actually Ember Moon who picked up the victory here with her Eclipse on Ruby Riott. And there was a little bit of interference here, actually a lot of interference from the Riott Squad on behalf of Ruby Riott, which prompted Bayley to come out to aid her friend, her frenemy, Sasha. It's kind of weird what's going on with them right now. So she attempted to help Sasha. She did for a little bit, ended up distracting Sasha, and right when Sasha was about to hit the bank statement on Ruby Riott, that's when Ember Moon came out of nowhere and hit that Eclipse on almost Sasha Banks and Ruby Riott at the same time. It was almost Sasha Banks ricocheted off of the impact that Ruby Riott suffered from the Eclipse for the end of that match there. So Ember Moon, she is the first woman to be in the women's Money in the Bank match. And this Raw card, this Raw episode, there was a lot of wrestling. There was actually 9 wrestling matches on Raw. We usually don't get quite that many for Raw, so this was a very wrestling-filled show. But there was a segment, one of the most notable things on the show that wasn't a wrestling segment, and it may be notable for not the right reasons, we can say. It was Bobby Lashley's interview backstage with Renee Young, and when they announced on Raw that he was going to have an interview, I was very, very excited because Bobby Lashley, he returned a month ago now. He's a big, jacked up dude. He's got a great presence, very athletic, but he hasn't been on the microphone once. We haven't heard this man declare why he's back in WWE for the first time in 10 years. We don't know what his motivations are. We don't know what his intentions are. We don't know what drives this rendition of Bobby Lashley. So I figured this interview was the perfect way to reintroduce him to the WWE fans, but it didn't quite work out like that. It was a very weird, it was almost like something you'd see on a morning show with Renee Young, because not only did this really not do any favors for Bobby Lashley, except maybe humanize him a little bit, it had nothing to do with his intentions in WWE. So Renee Young basically asks him, who's the real Bobby Lashley? To which Bobby Lashley, he talks about his family life and growing up with 3 young sisters, Kathy, Jessica, older sisters. He's the little brother in this. His 3 older sisters, Kathy, Jessica, and Frances. And he basically said how they used to make fun of him and leave him in the woods and do all this crazy stuff. And one time, one of his sisters was bullied and he beat up the bully or something like that. So it definitely humanized Bobby Lashley. We saw the family side to Bobby Lashley, but we don't know anything in terms of, is he going for Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship? What does he want to get out of his WWE run? It made him more relatable in a way, but it was a little cringeworthy at the end, certainly, when Bobby Lashley, to end this promo, it was short too, it was only about 5 minutes, this segment, probably a little less. Bobby Lashley looked directly at the camera and he just said to his sisters, I love you. And it was the cheesiest, cringiest thing I've seen in a long time. On paper, it doesn't sound that bad, so go out of your way to see this interview. It's got to be on YouTube, on WWE's YouTube channel, somewhere. So, cringy stuff here. If you want some uneasy laughs, check out Bobby Lashley's segment, and I hope his future segments are better, because I like Bobby Lashley quite a bit, and I want to see him in some interesting stuff, eventually competing for a world title. But right now, he is arguably the most uninteresting man in the world, especially with these kinds of promos. And Jinder Mahal, he had a backstage segment with Kurt Angle earlier in the night. He wanted to be added to the men's triple threat match, the Money in the Bank qualifier match between Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, and Finn Balor. Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, and who's the third guy? Roman Reigns. How could I forget the big dog, Roman Reigns? So Jinder Mahal wants to be added to that to make it a fatal 4-way. Kurt Angle says, sorry, you got to earn that, something along those lines. He doesn't add him to the match, so Jinder's pissed. And he basically has another match with Chad Gable, and he beats Chad Gable, but this was a good match because Chad Gable, he got some of his stuff in. It was a little unrealistic to think that Chad Gable would beat Jinder Mahal 2 weeks in a row. And as much as I don't like seeing a guy like Chad Gable, someone who's so much more talented than Jinder Mahal, in my opinion, lose to Jinder Mahal, I'll hinder the Jinder all day. I hate Jinder Mahal. Hate him, to be fair. But Jinder Mahal, he was the WWE champion for 6 months. Last year, Chad Gable has not even come close to reaching those heights. So in storyline, Jinder Mahal is Chad Gable's superior here. And as I mentioned, Chad Gable did get to show off some of his stuff, landed a moonsault at one point. And Jinder Mahal, he eventually won with the Colossus, but I like how they're slowly building up Gable here. He's got that underdog presence to him, and I can see already that he's being better utilized on Raw than he ever was on SmackDown, it seems like. There's also a tag match with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. They took on Heath Slater and Rhino, and this was pretty much a glorified squash match. Dolph Ziggler and McIntyre won with a Claymore kick, zigzag combo move to Heath Slater, while the audience was chanting very faintly, "He's got kids," regarding Heath Slater, because he does have kids after all. And yeah, I'm still warming up to this Drew McIntyre-Dolph Ziggler partnership here, because I feel like Dolph Ziggler definitely needs McIntyre more than McIntyre needs Ziggler. It's pretty certain. And I'm not really feeling their entrance either. These guys, Drew McIntyre comes out first, and then Dolph Ziggler's disc scratch comes on. It interrupts Drew McIntyre's entrance. And I just think sooner rather than later, Drew McIntyre needs to disassociate himself from Dolph Ziggler, drop him like the deadweight he is, because McIntyre has loads of potential. Well, at this point, Dolph Ziggler, honestly, it seems like he has 1 foot in, 1 foot out all the time with WWE now. He's seemingly more focused on outside ventures other than wrestling. So hopefully the partnership doesn't last too long, but for now, they're doing all right, I suppose. And we have Bobby Roode against Elias, and I don't remember much from this match at all, to be honest with you. From what I do remember, it was a pretty standard match. Bobby Roode hit his AA spinebuster at one point, and it ended with him landing the glorious DDT on Elias to pick up the win. So Bobby Roode, after weeks of losing to Elias finally picks up a clean win with the glorious DDT, and he gets some momentum back himself. But myself, like many others, it seems like I'm just waiting for Bobby Roode to turn heel. At this point, he's a much more natural heel, and it would just make more sense for him to be heel, but it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon yet, so we'll just have to wait in the future for that. But for now, Bobby Roode is a babyface. He's fine, but the real money in him is as a heel. Just like how people were saying years ago, the real money in Seth Rollins is as a babyface. And we're finally seeing that now, and actually that's a perfect segue to get into Seth Rollins. He had an open challenge for the Intercontinental Championship. He wanted some competition here, and I got my hopes up. I was maybe, for some reason, hoping Neville would come out, a big return. Instead, we got probably the biggest disappointment possible with Mojo Rawley coming out, but it was definitely designed to be like that. Mojo Rawley, he's a heel, he's supposed to be booed, you're not supposed to be happy when you see him, so it made sense that he came out here to answer this open challenge, and it was actually a pretty damn decent match. Mojo Rawley got to show some of his power, some of his athleticism for a big guy, even nailed a pretty impressive looking pounce, running shoulder tackle on Seth Rollins towards the end of the match there. And it was Seth Rollins who eventually picked up the victory, landing the curb stomp on Mojo Rawley. And he did hit a ripcord knee at one point, or whatever they're calling his knee. I just always call it the ripcord knee. But it was a little botch. It didn't really fully connect with Mojo Rawley, and it was no wonder that they didn't replay that. During the replay, when they were showing the finish, that they skipped showing the knee, because that was a little off. But overall, this one of the better matches I've seen Mojo Rawley in. So Seth Rollins, he's firing on all cylinders right now, really delivering with regardless of who his opponent is, and that was ever so apparent in his match with Mojo Rawley here. And in another match, we had Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, the Raw Tag Team Champions. They beat Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. They debuted a new tag team finishing move, it looks like. It was a double Sister Abigail for Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. And right now it seems like these guys are kind of just treading water, waiting for their next challenger for the Raw Tag Team Championships. I'm not sure who it's going to be. Maybe it could be the Authors of Pain. They weren't on this show, but I'm trying to think of who else is actual contender for them on the Raw brand. You got Breezango. They're not really Tag Team Championship contenders right now, at least. You've got, who else? Titus Worldwide, no thank you. You've got Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, who they beat here, no thanks. So really the only thing I can think of is Authors of Pain, but if Authors of Pain challenge for the titles, they should win them right away, because with the monster tag team that the Authors of Pain are, they shouldn't be losing their first opportunities at the tag titles. So Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt seemingly stuck in a rut right now, but they had a fun match on this edition of Raw. And in the main event, it was Finn Balor defeating Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns to qualify for the men's Money in the Bank match. So now 2 out of the 4 slots on the Raw side are already filled up with Finn Balor winning this match. And this is actually a pretty fun triple threat match. You saw Finn Balor and Sami Zayn teaming up at some points, which the audience loved, which is hilarious to me that you've got the guy who's supposed to be the top babyface in Roman Reigns, and he's getting booed vociferously when he's getting any offense in, and no matter who's beating him up, whether it's Finn Balor or Sami Zayn or both of them at the same time, the audience is going crazy for these guys. They were cheering so hard when Roman Reigns got double stomped by them. They wanted more, so they gave him more. They tossed Roman Reigns out of the ring. The audience loved that. They've even took Roman Reigns out into the audience. Sami Zayn landed a haluva kick on him, and Finn Balor landed a coup de grace on Roman Reigns on the outside, kind of by the weird audio production area that they have out there. And so Roman Reigns was eliminated from this match for a good portion of it until the end when he found his way back in. He was mounting a comeback. The audience was predictably booing. And right as it seemed like Roman Reigns was about to cinch the deal, it was Jinder Mahal who distracted him. So Jinder Mahal made his presence known in this main event match on Monday Night Raw. He interfered and he tripped Roman Reigns when Reigns was going for the spear. And then Finn Balor hit his shotgun running dropkick on Roman Reigns. Reigns was taken out of the equation at that point. Finn Balor then hit the same running dropkick on Sami Zayn and a coup de grace to pick up the win. And Sami Zayn actually did hit another haluva kick on Roman Reigns after Mahal interfered to really take him out of the match there. So Finn Balor, as I predicted when they announced this match, he won and he will be in that men's Money in the Bank match. And this makes me think we're going to get Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank, aren't we? Since it was leaked online that Brock Lesnar apparently will not be at Money in the Bank, interestingly enough. So it looks like we're going to have a Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns, possibly main eventing Money in the Bank. And it makes me think this match is put together because Vince McMahon and WWE writers have got to be thinking, who is somebody who the fans hate more than Roman Reigns? Jinder Mahal, right? And in my case, I totally dislike Jinder Mahal more than Roman Reigns. But in a match versus Jinder Mahal and Roman Reigns, I'm going to want Jinder Mahal to win just for the sheer novelty of Roman Reigns losing. It's weird. I like Roman Reigns as an in-ring performer, but there's just something satisfying about seeing the guy lose. Maybe it's because he's so shoved down fans' throats that it's just fun to see this guy lose. I'm not sure, honestly, what it could be. Let me know if that's what you think it is. Let me know what you thought about this review, what you thought about this edition of Monday Night Raw in the comments section. Hit up my Twitter at Will Glasband and tweet me. Let me know what you thought about this episode of Raw and what you're thinking of Willpower Radio so far in its infancy, or Willpower Wrestling, I should say. Willpower Radio is a show I do for the local community college where I live. So let me know how I'm doing here and let me know your thoughts on the world of WWE currently. Until next time on Willpower Wrestling.